started with our training today, and I appreciate all you guys coming out and logging in to the training. This is a new way to train you guys, and there are several reasons why I went with the webinar type of training. And one reason is because last year we did monthly trainings just about every month, and that was good, but we had a lot of folks who weren't able to make it. Okay, you guys, some of you have supervisors or managers that work second shift, or they work third shift, and they weren't able to get there. This type of software allows us to record and then archive all of our trainings. And the good thing about that is now that we can record, then we can archive it, and your second and third shift supervisors or anyone that's not able to attend today or for these trainings can listen to it and watch it later. So that's one of the reasons that we went to that. And I really felt a burden last year that we weren't reaching enough people with our trainings, because there's only so many people that can show up at District 6, and there are only so many times that we can have repeat classes. So we missed a lot of people last year, so I felt like we need to do something different. The other reason I went with this type of training is because we trained you guys last year. We did not do any all-employee trainings last year, and that is a failure. We have an obligation to train our employees on harassment and also notify them of their rights, especially when it comes to family medical leave. So I'm also going to use this software to train all of our employees, and by that I mean your frontline employees, your clerks and your equipment operators and those guys. And I know not everyone will be able to sit in and attend like you guys are right now, but like I said, it will be archived so that they can watch it later, they can watch it at home, and I will send out later on the location of where the recording of today's training will be located. And if you have someone that you want to see this and listen to this training, then you can point them to that location, and it's probably going to be on our website. But I believe that communication is critical. It is HR's job to train you guys, but it's also our job to train our frontline employees, just like it's your job to train your frontline employees. So I felt like that Madison County needs to do a better job of communicating and having a vehicle in place that will allow us to do that. But this is a first, so congratulations. You're on the inaugural voyage of the first type of training. I would recommend that if you can close your office door for these types of trainings because of background noise. I cannot hear you guys, but for your own sake and being able to hear and keep up, I would recommend that you close your door. Okay, right now you should be able to see my screen, and it says New and Revised Personnel Forms, February the 11th. But also on your screen, there should be a control panel. And somewhere on that control panel, probably down toward the bottom, there is a box that's labeled Questions. Now, if at any point during your training you have a question, just key that in and send it to us. Ms. Pam is in here with me today, and she's going to be answering questions as we go. So you don't have to wait to the end. If I'm going over something and you need clarification, you don't understand it, by all means, please ask. Just key in your question, send it, and we'll get it answered in real time for you, okay? And again, everything that's said today and everything that is shown is being recorded. So please keep that in mind. Also on your control panel, you'll probably see some 5 documents, 5 forms, and we're going to go over those forms today. You can click on those and view them if you want to, but you certainly don't have to, because I'm going to show them to you, and then I'm going to show you on our website where these new forms or revised forms are located. So please don't think that you have to click on those and save them. That's just there if you want to review them. All right, so today we're going to talk about some revised forms, and I think it's important that we go over this with you. Whenever we make slight changes to forms, we don't always tell you about those, but we've made some major changes. And if you know anything about me, you know I like to change. And part of that is because I want us to always think about improving. How can we work smarter and not work harder? How can we progress? How can we do things better and never get complacent? And I think our forms were good, but we had got to the point to where we realized that we needed to make some changes. But some of these changes are from your feedback, and I love your feedback. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you send me an email and say, I don't like the new termination form. I think we should do it this way. I will take that under advisement, and if we need to make a change, then that's what we'll do. Because it's not just Jeremy's forms, it's your forms, okay? We do this to make your job easier, and that's what we want to do, is to eliminate a lot of these manual processes and do things that allow you to do your job quicker and more efficiently, and that's what we're going to work on today. So if you got some feedback, you're not going to hurt my feelings on that, okay? All right, so we're going to go through this, and I know that the training said 2 hours, but trust me, we're not going to be in here 2 hours. I just have to put an end date, and during the training that I went through, it said always it's better to extend your end date longer than you think that it will be, because it will cut off at the end date. So the first form that we're going to talk about is the employee disciplinary form. Some of you are more familiar with this than others. Some of you have to discipline your employees quite often. Some of you do not, and that's good and bad. And I'm not going to talk a lot about discipline today, because in the months ahead we're going to have our discipline and termination form training. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the discipline process today. But what I will say that is, if you have a staff of more than 2, 3, 4, 5, and you never have to discipline those folks, either they're really perfect or you're not doing your job correcting their poor performance, attendance, tardiness, whatever it is. Okay, we have to document. No matter what's going on, we have to document. And I'm not going to say too much about this, but just please understand that we have a disciplinary form for a purpose, okay? Now, previously we had our discipline and our termination processes on the same form, and some of you are well aware of that. And that was okay, but we've come to realize that it's time to separate those two processes, because they're very different. Discipline is a very different process than termination. So we have broken out our disciplinary form, and we have a new termination form that we'll talk about in just a minute. So this first form, employee disciplinary form, is what you'll use when you have to discipline your employees. Now, I'll say just a few things about this form. This incident description box right here. Guys, whatever you enter into that box, please make sure that it is 100% accurate. Okay? No hearsay, no I think, no here's what I heard. Please only enter what the facts are into that box. Keep in mind that when you're completing these forms, it's not just that it's going to go in the personnel file. These are legally binding documents. Never put anything on a disciplinary form or a termination form that you would not feel comfortable with a judge, a jury, an attorney looking at later, okay? Be very specific. If you need help with wording, contact personnel, and we'll be happy to help you. Now, the progressive discipline levels, you guys are pretty familiar with these. It goes through verbal, written, and then suspension. And yes, a verbal is written. It is documented, okay? But verbal is the beginning of the progressive disciplinary process. It's usually the first thing you do. But guys, even a verbal has to be documented, because if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. You talking to one of your employees because they come in late a few times, and you just talk to them on the side, if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. So that when we want to move to termination, and you call me or you call Pam and say, I want to terminate this employee, we go to the file. If there's not some progressive discipline listed, then we're going to have a hard time trying to terminate that employee. So document everything, use this form. The only other thing that I will talk about is the actions necessary to bring about improvement box. Whatever you're writing this person up for, the next step is for you to say, what do they need to do for improvement? Okay? If it's attendance, tardiness, poor performance, whatever it is, you need to articulate what they need to do to improve, because what an attorney or a jury is going to look at, if it gets to that point, is, okay, you wrote them up for poor performance, but you didn't tell them how they can improve, okay? So you've got to make sure that you put down exactly what they need to do for improvement. An employee can list any comments that they want to list. Now let's talk about signatures down here just a minute. Sometimes we get questions on these forms, well, the employee didn't sign it. What do? Well, that doesn't mean anything. If the employee doesn't sign it, that doesn't mean anything. It's still effective. It still goes in their personnel file. All I would ask you to do, if your employee refuses to sign this disciplinary form, is right here, notate employee refused to sign. Okay, just notate employee refused to sign, put your initials, and have the witness that's in the room with you put their initials there. Because remember, basic 101 discipline is you always have a witness with you, right? Okay, so you place your initials beside it and then have the witness that's in the room with you, which should be the employee supervisor or another manager. If it's a member of personnel, then we'll do it. But we just need to notate that the employee refused to sign an initial and then send this form to personnel. That's it. Okay. So that's a lot of explanation over a disciplinary form. But I just want to make sure that everybody understands that there's a right way to fill these things out. Now, one thing you'll notice on all of our forms, and we're trying to slowly progress to this, all of these forms are fillable PDFs. Okay? All you've got to do is open up the document, key in the information, print it, and then send it to us. Okay? What we were doing, and some people still print this form out and handwrite on it. And some of you have very beautiful handwriting. You really do. But I do not. And some of you don't as well. So we want to make sure that any type of legally binding document, that it is legible and it is clear, and that no one would have a problem trying to interpretate what we're trying to say. So please open it up, key in the information, and print it. It just makes it easier on everyone. All right, second form, the new form, which is the termination of employment. This is a new form. Like I said, we separated the termination process from the disciplinary process. Unfortunately, sometimes we do have to use this form, and I'm going to be honest with you, I may be stepping on your toes here, but I don't think enough of you use it as much as you should. Because, guys, either your employees are either helping you or they're hurting you. And if they're hurting you, we need to move them on. Okay, but we have to go through the progressive discipline process in order to do that. But please don't ever think that we can't terminate an employee. But I'm getting off into my other trainings. But just please understand that we can move employees on when we need to do so. All right, with the termination of employment form, let me point something out, and please write this down, okay? All separations of employment go on this form going forward. All separations of employment go on this form, whether they're involuntary or voluntary. Involuntary means that we've helped them out the door. Voluntary means they've left on their own accord. They've quit, they're going to take another job, they're retiring. Whatever it is, we have involuntary and voluntary. All separations of employment go on this form. Now, I know that we had been putting voluntary terminations on the personnel transaction form, but we're no longer going to do that. Going forward, all separations of employment go on the termination form, okay? So use this form no matter if we're terminating them or they're retiring or they're just leaving or whatever. Use this form for that. Again, we're kind of consolidating, and it makes it a little easier to understand that we'll have one form for no matter why the employee leaves. Reason for the termination, just like I said on the disciplinary form, please make sure that you key in exactly why we're terminating this employee. Again, it's a legally binding document. Just be clear with that. If you need help, let me know. The effective date of the termination, annual leave payout, you guys are used to doing that on the personnel transaction form. whatever their annual leave payout is. The employee can list any comments that they want to. But now let's get into this. Yeah, do not write "see attached," please. Please do not write "see attached" when we're talking about things on a termination form. Please put everything that you need to put on the termination form itself. The appeals process for terminated employees, we are required to notify full-time non-probationary employees that they have a right to appeal their termination to the personnel board. Okay, all full-time non-probationary employees can appeal that to the personnel board. And please write this down. Please make a copy of every termination form and make sure that employee gets that copy. Please make sure when you're going through this process with that employee that you give them a copy of this termination form. Okay, because this serves as their notification that they have a right to an appeal, and there's a timeline for that. As you can see, they have a certain amount of time to file that appeal with me as a personnel director, but this serves as their notification. So please, please, please make sure that you give that employee a copy of the termination form. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is something new. We did not have a formal out processing and exit interview process for Madison County. Okay, we didn't have a formal set of procedures for this, and we need one. Okay, now, so our new process has 2 steps. Step 1 is the departmental out processing. That's what they do with you when they leave, and they return keys, equipment, cell phones, gas cards, whatever they have, whatever you issue to them during their employment. The out processing is the checklist where they turn it back into you. I know some of you already have a form in place that you're using right now, and that's fine. You can continue to use that form. Some of you do not, and if you don't, then this form here that's on the screen for you, you can use this form if you so choose to do so. So if you already have a form in place, you can continue to use that form. Just please make a copy of it and send it to personnel with the termination form. If you do not have an out processing form where you check off when they give equipment back to you that's been issued to them, then you can use this form here. Okay, if you didn't already have one. Some of your departments, you may give them a pen and some paper, and that's it. You don't really issue uniforms or gas cards, cell phones, pagers, or anything like that. But I do know everyone gets a badge. Everyone in Madison County has an employee badge. Personnel wants that badge back. Okay? Personnel wants the badge back. Okay? So you need to send that back with the termination form and the out processing form. Get that employee badge back from the employee and send it to personnel. So let me recap here. The first step is departmental out processing. If your department already has a form in place that it wants, and you want to keep using that form, that's fine. Keep using it. Just make a copy of it when the employee has turned everything in. Make a copy of that and send it in with the termination form. Okay? You can keep using it. That's fine. If your department doesn't currently have an out processing form, then I would like for you to use the form that's on the screen now. That is the second page of the termination form, and send that into personnel. Okay? Because, like I said, I know every employee in Madison County has at least an employee badge, and I think there are a few departments that issue more items, but you don't have a form in place, and you're just kind of hoping you get it all back, and there's no formal out processing checklist. But guys, we need to know that we issued this employee a gas card, a cell phone, uniforms, whatever it is, on their first day of employment, and on their last day of employment, we need to pull that out and say, okay, I need that cell phone, uniforms, gas card back, and then send that to personnel. Okay? So we needed a formal process and procedures for out processing. Step 2 is where they come to personnel, and we do benefit out processing here, and we have a new form in place and a new process, and we're actually also doing now a new exit survey for these employees. So some of you are sending in questions, and that's good. If something you don't understand, by all means, please ask us now, and we'll be happy to get that answer to you in real time. So just let me recap one more time. On the out processing form, if your department already has one and you like it and you're happy with it, keep using it. Just please send a copy of it when it's completed along with the termination form back to personnel. If your department does not have a current out processing form, please use the one that's on the bottom of the termination form. Have employees sign it and send it to us. Now, if you want to use this form and there's something that is not listed, then you can write that in, or you can write it on a piece of paper, something like that, and just send it in. It's just whatever you want to do. I don't want to mandate that every department has to use this new form if the form that you're currently using is adequate and you're happy with it. Okay. All right. We good to move on? Okay. All right. So the last form that we're going to cover today is the personnel transaction form. Not much changed on this form. Matter of fact, the only thing that changed was that we took involuntary terminations off this form. Because remember, all separations of employment, whether they're voluntary or involuntary, go on the new termination form. Okay? So the only thing you're going to use this personnel transaction form now is a job category change or a departmental transfer. Okay, that's the only reason you will use a personnel transaction. I'm going to say it one more time. All separations of employment go on this new termination form. The only thing you will use the personnel transaction form for is job category change or departmental transfer. For you that don't use this a whole lot, or you don't have employees change categories a whole lot, what I'm talking about is if you have a seasonal employee and you like that person, they're a good employee, and you want to make them full-time, you would use this form. If you have a part-time employee and they're working 29 hours or less per week, and you want to make them full-time, or you want to make them seasonal to where they can work more than 29 hours a week, then you use this form. Same as if they're going seasonal to part-time, okay? Now let me say one thing about that, because we have some departments and some districts that do this quite a bit, okay? Where you change an employee from seasonal to part-time or seasonal to full-time or whatever. Under the new ACA law, I'm not sure that we can do everything that we're doing right now. That is such a complex law. The IRS doesn't even understand it, to be honest with you. So Pam and I are going to meet with an attorney in the next few weeks that has a lot more information and the knowledge about the Affordable Care Act than we do, and whether or not we can really move an employee from seasonal to part-time. And because then you get into stability periods and that kind of thing that I'm not going to get into with you now, but there'll probably be some more information coming out on that soon. But anyway, all that to say, the only reason that you're going to use this personnel transaction form is for job category changes, or if the employee transfers from one department to another. Okay? All right. That's all the forms that we have to cover. That is all that has changed as far as forms go. Now let me show you where you can find these forms. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the new website. A lot of you have your own links out here. Some of you are familiar with the personnel website, and we have a link on our website that says Personnel Department Forms. Okay, and Ms. Pam Rowe has done a great job of keeping our website up to date, and she has put all of our forms into folders that make it very easy for you to find them and to find the form that you're looking for without looking through a long list. So we're going to start with the discipline and termination, and there you will find the new disciplinary form and the new termination and departmental out processing form that we talked about. What I would ask you to do, though, is when it's necessary for you to use one of these forms, guys, please don't open it up and then save the blank template to your computer to use later. Please come to the website and access the template every time that you need to use it. Now, the reason I say that is because we may make subtle changes to a form that we don't need to have a formal training like this for. Because again, like I said, we're going to always look and see how can we improve. If there's some wording that we need to change, or we need to move a box around, so we won't always have a training on that, but we will change forms around. So please access the website every time that you need to access a form, okay? The other form that we talked about that I'll show you where it is the personnel transaction form is under the payroll changes folder, and it's right there, okay? There's a ton of information out here on our website. We try to keep it updated and add information to it as we need to. One thing I will point out is if you come to the employee information link, here I've posted, or here Pam Rowe has posted upcoming trainings. So if you want to see what's coming up, then you can come here and do that. You notice on there, management FMLA training coming up on Thursday, March 31st. I've not sent anything out on that because I didn't want to confuse you and send it out before we had this training. So I'll get the invitation out on that. We had FMLA training back in late fall, but there's still a lot of questions. People still, our managers still don't understand exactly how it works, that they don't understand what their requirements are. And guys, there are a few laws that can get us in a lot of trouble in a hurry. Family medical leave is probably number one. So it is critical that you have the information that you need to be able to do your job and give the employees the correct information when they ask you about family medical leave, and you understand what your requirements are. And then you see that I've noticed that we posted an employee FMLA training for late April. And again, it's our duty and our responsibility to notify all of our employees of their rights under family medical leave. It's not just that's a nice thing to do. By law, we have to do that. So we have posters up at a lot of locations that talks about family medical leave and wage and hour laws and things like that, but we also have to notify them. So we'll have an all-employee training on family medical leave in April. The information that they get will be very similar to the information that you get in your training in late March, but it will be a little more tailored toward what their rights are and also what their requirements are under family medical leave. But again, it's just important that I not just communicate with you, it's important that we communicate with your employees. So that's why we've kind of gone with this software and having webinars, and allows you to stay in your office. But we may have a couple of trainings this year where we do get together and talk about some things. But I like doing this for no other reason, like I said, because it's going to be recorded and archived, and anyone can access it at any time. Okay? Well, Ms. Pam is still answering questions, but that's all that I have to present today. Thanks again for attending, and I'll send out the invitation for the management training probably the first of next week. That'll be occurring in March. And but again, if you have feedback on this, let me know. This wasn't perfect, and I'm always, like I said, striving to make things better, and I know you guys are too. And so if you got some feedback on this, let me know, and we'll be happy to look at it, okay? We're going to stay on for a little bit longer, so if you have questions, keep sending them in, and we'll be happy to answer those. But if you don't have any questions, thank you for attending, and if you need anything that we want to talk about one-on-one, just give us a call in personnel. All right, thank you.